In this video, we're going to show you how to arrange pattern pieces for simulation. Let's load the tutorial file to begin. Arranging the pattern pieces is a necessary part of building a 3D garment. In this step, we are letting the simulation know where on the avatar the pattern pieces should drape from. This step is comparable to pinning paper pattern pieces to a dress form, and arranging the pattern pieces properly improves the simulation output. To go to Arrange mode, we click on the Arrange button. The pattern pieces are displayed in the Arrangement mode version of the 2D window. The position of the pattern pieces does not change from the standard 2D window. Note that setting up the pattern pieces in the 2D window before going into Arrange mode can smooth the workflow. We now see a view of the right side, front, left side, and back of the avatar shape. In each view, there are light gray sections of the body. These sections are called clusters. In Arrange mode, we drag each pattern piece to the cluster it should drape from when the garment is simulated. For example, let's start by arranging the front pattern piece. As we drag it into position, a labeled bounding box is displayed to help us ensure we put the piece in the right cluster. If we make a mistake, we simply drag the piece out of the cluster. In the Download section, you'll find a handout that describes the different clusters available in Arrange mode. As a beginner, you can refer to this document to know where each cluster is. Here are some important points to note about placing pieces in Arrange mode. First, the cluster is sensitive to which cluster our cursor touches, not where the pattern outline touches. Second, if we are dragging a piece and delay while hovering over a cluster, the bounding box flashes twice, indicating the piece is now in that cluster. Finally, we can stack multiple pattern pieces in the same cluster. When we add a pattern into the cluster, it means that the pattern is visible in the 3D window. To view the pattern in 3D, we click on Prepare on the main toolbar. This is Prepare mode. The patterns we have added into the cluster are visible and correspond to the positions placed in Arrange mode. Moving the patterns in the 2D window moves the patterns in the 3D window and the other way around. At the top of the 3D window, we click this icon to view patterns which we have not added to any clusters. We are also able to drag and drop a pattern into a cluster in the 3D window. We simply drag the pattern and drop it onto the avatar. When dragging the pattern, the clusters appear as boxes on the avatar. The clusters also correspond to the clusters in the 2D window. For example, let's drag the back bodice pattern to the back of the avatar. Once the back bodice pattern is successfully added onto the back torso cluster, the pattern is prepared flat on the back of the avatar and arranged in the 2D window. Now we can continue to arrange the patterns into the clusters. We can work in the 2D or 3D window to complete this step. For the skirt patterns, we drag the pattern and place our cursor close but not on the leg of the cluster. There we can see the skirt cluster appear, and we can drop the pattern in. The skirt pattern is prepared flat on the avatar in the 2D window. Had we dragged the skirt pattern onto the legs, it would have been added into the leg cluster and would appear wrapping around the leg instead. We remove the pattern and drag it into the skirt cluster again. We repeat this for the back skirt patterns, ensuring that they are added to the back skirt cluster and not the back leg cluster. The waistband can be added to the front low waist cluster, which allows it to wrap around the waist of the avatar. Let's focus now in the 2D window. More details about adjusting the patterns in the 3D window will be covered in the next lesson. When we add our pattern pieces to the right cluster, we might need to make some adjustments. For example, what if a pattern piece is facing in the wrong direction? If this happens, we can click on the piece and use the gizmo to rotate it to the correct position. Remember that you can restrict the gizmo rotation to moves of 45 degrees by holding down the Shift key while rotating the gizmo. As another example, we might want to fix alignment of a pattern piece in the cluster. Let's make sure the torso piece is centered. All done! In this video, you've learned how to arrange pattern pieces for use in 3D. For more information, visit our help website.